Moving to a new house is supposed to be exciting. That's what Mom and Dad kept telling me when we packed all our stuff into boxes. They said I'd make new friends and have a bigger bedroom and everything would be great. Our new house was pretty cool. It was white with blue shutters and had a big front yard with an old oak tree perfect for climbing. My bedroom was on the second floor and I could see the whole neighborhood from my window. The house next door was smaller and older than ours. It was painted gray and looked kind of sad, like nobody had taken care of it for a long time. The grass was too long, and the fence was falling down in some places. On our first day, while Dad was carrying boxes from the moving truck, I saw someone watching us from the house next door. It was an old man standing at his upstairs window. He had white hair and wore a dark shirt. When he saw me looking at him, he didn't wave or smile like normal neighbors do. He just kept staring. "Dad, who's that?" I asked, pointing at the window. Dad looked up and saw the man too. "I guess that's our neighbor. We should go introduce ourselves later." But when Dad looked back up a few seconds later, the man was gone. That night at dinner, Mom asked if I liked the new house. I said yes, but I told her about the old man watching us. She said he was probably just curious about the new family moving in. "Some people are shy," she said. "Maybe he'll come say hello once we're all settled." The next morning, I woke up early because the sun was shining right through my new bedroom window. I forgot to close the curtains the night before. As I sat up in bed, I looked out the window and saw something that made my stomach feel weird. The old man from next door was standing in his yard, but he was doing something strange. He was watering his grass with a garden hose, just like my dad had done yesterday when we were moving in. But here's the weird part. He was watering the exact same spot where my dad had watered. And he was wearing the same color shirt Dad wore yesterday, a red one. I watched him for a few minutes. He moved the hose around his yard in the same pattern Dad had used. When Dad watered our grass, he started by the front steps, then moved to the left side of the yard, then the right side. The old man was doing the exact same thing. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe that's just how everyone waters their grass. At breakfast, I told Mom and Dad what I saw. Dad laughed and said, "Well, I guess he liked my technique." But Mom looked a little confused. "That is kind of odd," she said. "Why would he copy exactly what you did?" "I'm sure it's nothing," Dad said. But I noticed he looked out the kitchen window toward the neighbor's house. That day was Saturday, so I didn't have school. Mom took me to buy new sheets and curtains for my room. When we got back home around lunchtime, Dad was in the garage organizing his tools. "Anything interesting happen while we were gone?" Mom asked. Dad put down his screwdriver and frowned. "Actually, yeah. I was out here working, and I kept feeling like someone was watching me. I looked up a few times and saw our neighbor in his garage too. He was organizing tools just like I was doing." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Well, when I was sorting screws into little containers, I looked over and he was doing the same thing. When I started hanging up my hammers on the wall, he did that too. It was like he was copying everything I did." Mom and I looked at each other. That was definitely weird. Sunday morning, we all got dressed for church. We were still unpacking, so it took us a while to find our nice clothes. Dad wore his blue tie, and Mom put on her yellow dress. I wore my khaki pants and my favorite striped shirt. As we walked to our car, I glanced at the neighbor's house. The old man was standing at his front door, and I couldn't believe what I saw. He was wearing a blue tie just like Dad's, and standing behind him was an old woman in a yellow dress, just like Mom's. But here's the really creepy part. There was also a boy with them who looked about my age. He was wearing khaki pants and a striped shirt. Not exactly like mine, but really close. "Mom," I whispered, tugging on her arm. "Look." Mom and Dad both turned to look at our neighbors. The old man waved at us with a big smile. The woman and the boy waved too. But something about their smiles seemed fake, like they were pretending to be happy. How nice, Mom said, but her voice sounded forced. They're dressed up for church, too. We waved back and got in our car. As Dad backed out of the driveway, I watched the neighbor family get into their car, too. It was an old blue car, almost the same color as ours. At church, I couldn't pay attention to anything the preacher said. I kept thinking about our neighbors and how they were dressed just like us. And who was that boy? I'd never seen him before. When we got home, I ran straight to my bedroom window. The neighbor's car was back in their driveway. I could see the old man in his yard, but he wasn't doing yard work anymore. He was just standing there, looking at our house. Monday was my first day at my new school. I was nervous about making friends and finding my classrooms. Mom packed me a lunch and walked me to the bus stop at the end of our street. While we waited for the bus, I noticed the old man from next door standing at his mailbox. He wasn't getting mail or anything. He was just standing there, watching me and Mom. That man gives me the creeps, Mom said quietly. The school bus came, and I got on. As we drove away, I looked out the back window. The old man was still standing at his mailbox, watching the bus drive away. School was okay. I met a few kids in my class, and my teacher seemed nice. When I got home that afternoon, Mom was in the kitchen making a snack. "How was your first day?" she asked. "Good," I said. "But Mom, I want to show you something weird." I led her to the front window and pointed to the neighbor's house. The old man was standing at his mailbox again, at the exact same spot where he'd been that morning. "He's been there all day," Mom said. "I've seen him every time I looked out the window." "What's he doing?" Just then, Dad's car pulled into our driveway. Dad got out and walked to our mailbox to get the mail. The old man watched Dad the whole time. When Dad finished and walked back to the house, the old man finally went inside too. That night at dinner, we talked about our strange neighbor. "I think we should go introduce ourselves," Dad said. "Maybe he's just lonely and doesn't know how to be friendly." "I don't know," Mom said. "There's something not right about him." "And what about that family we saw yesterday? Who were they?" "Maybe his relatives were visiting," Dad suggested. But I had a bad feeling it was something else. The next morning, I woke up and looked out my window like I always did. What I saw made me call for my parents right away. The old man was in his front yard, and he was wearing the exact same pajamas I was wearing, blue with little white clouds. But that wasn't the strangest part. He was standing in the same spot where I always stood when I looked out my window, and he was looking up at my window, copying the way I looked out at his house. When Mom and Dad came to my room and saw what I was seeing, Mom gasped. "That's it," she said. "We're calling the police." But Dad put his hand on her arm. "And tell them what? That our neighbor likes to copy us? That's not against the law." We watched the old man for a few more minutes. He waved at us, still wearing that fake smile. Then he went back inside his house. That afternoon, something happened that changed everything. I was doing homework in my room when I heard voices outside. I looked out my window and saw the old man talking to a woman on the sidewalk. She was wearing a uniform and had a clipboard. She looked like someone official, maybe from the city or something. I opened my window a crack so I could hear what they were saying. "Sir, we've had some complaints from your previous neighbors," the woman was saying. "They said you were copying their behavior and making them uncomfortable." "Previous neighbors?" the old man said. "I don't know what you're talking about." "This is the third neighborhood you've lived in this year," the woman continued. "Each time, the same complaints. Copying families, especially families with children." My heart started beating fast. I ran to get Mom and Dad. When we all looked out the window, the woman was handing the old man some papers. "You have 30 days to find a new place to live," she said. "This behavior has to stop." After the woman left, the old man looked up at our house. Even from far away, I could see he wasn't smiling anymore. He looked angry, really angry. That night, we made sure all our doors and windows were locked. 2 weeks later, the old man moved out. But before he left, he did one last creepy thing. He left a note in our mailbox. It said, "I really enjoyed getting to know your family. I hope we can be neighbors again someday." At the bottom of the note, He had drawn a picture of our house. But in the picture, there were people in our windows that didn't look like us. They looked like him and that strange family we'd seen. We never saw him again, but sometimes I still check my window in the morning just to make sure no one is copying me in the yard next door. I love ice cream trucks. The happy music always makes me run outside with my allowance money. Every summer day when I hear that tinkling song, I get so excited. My favorite is the blue raspberry slush. It makes my tongue turn bright blue and my mom always laughs. But last week, something really weird started happening that made me never want to hear that music again. It was Tuesday night around 10 p.m. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth before bed. Mom always makes me brush for 2 whole minutes, so I was counting in my head when I heard it. The ice cream truck music, that same happy song I love so much during the day. I spit out my toothpaste and looked out the little bathroom window. There was a white ice cream truck driving really slowly down our street. The music was playing loud, but something felt wrong. No kids were outside. It was a school night and way past bedtime for everyone in our neighborhood. I pressed my face against the glass and watched. The truck had colorful pictures of ice cream cones and popsicles painted on the sides, just like normal. But the windows were dark and I could barely see inside. The truck stopped right in front of our house. The music kept playing, but the truck just sat there. I could see someone in the driver's seat. He wore a baseball cap pulled down really low, so I couldn't see his face. But I could tell he was looking up at our house, maybe even looking right at me. My heart started beating fast. Why would an ice cream truck be here so late? Why was the driver just sitting there? After about 5 minutes that felt like an hour, the music finally stopped. The truck's engine made a loud noise and it drove away slowly. I watched until the red tail lights disappeared around the corner. I ran to my parents' room and told them what I saw. Dad was already asleep and just mumbled something about ice cream. Mom said maybe the driver was just heading home from work and lived somewhere in our neighborhood. That made sense, I guess, but still felt weird. The next night, Wednesday, I finished my homework early and went to bed at my normal time. But I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that truck. At exactly 10 p.m., I heard it again. That same happy music that now made my stomach feel sick. I snuck out of bed and looked out my bedroom window this time. I had a better view of the street from there. Sure enough, the white truck came creeping down our street. It moved so slowly, like the driver was looking at every house. When it got to our house, it stopped again. Same spot, right in front of our mailbox. The music played for a few seconds, then went quiet. In the silence, I could hear my own breathing. The street light made everything look orange and spooky. The driver's door opened. A man got out of the truck. He was really tall and skinny, wearing dark clothes. The baseball cap was still pulled down over his face. He didn't look like any ice cream truck driver I'd ever seen. Those guys are usually friendly and smile a lot. This man moved like a robot. He walked around to the back of his truck and opened the big freezer door. The inside light came on, and I expected to see ice cream bars and popsicles. But from my window, it looked empty, completely empty. The man stood there for a long time, pretending to look inside the empty freezer. But his head kept turning toward our house. I ducked down behind my windowsill, scared he might see me watching. When I peeked up again, he was walking toward our front yard. My heart pounded so loud I thought he might hear it. He stopped at our mailbox and just stood there, staring at our house. Not moving, not doing anything, just staring. I wanted to wake up my parents, but I was too scared to move. What if the floor creaked? What if he heard me and knew someone was watching? So I just stayed frozen by my window, watching this creepy man watch our house. After what felt like forever, he walked back to his truck. He got in, started the engine, and drove away. No music this time, just the sound of the truck getting quieter and quieter until it was gone. Thursday at school, I could barely pay attention. I kept thinking about the ice cream truck man. During lunch, I asked my friend Jake if he'd ever seen an ice cream truck at night. He said no and asked why. I didn't want to sound crazy, so I just said I thought I heard one. That night, I had a plan. I turned off all the lights in my room and moved my chair right up to the window. I wanted to get a better look at this guy. Maybe I could see his face or read the license plate or something. At 9:55 p.m., I was ready and waiting. My room was totally dark. At exactly 10 p.m., I heard the music starting from far away. My hands got sweaty and my mouth felt dry. The truck appeared at the end of our street. This time it moved even slower than before, like the driver was being extra careful. As it got closer, I could see more details. The truck looked old and beat up. Some of the ice cream pictures were peeling off the sides. When it stopped in front of our house, I got the best look yet at the driver. He had pale skin and dark hair sticking out from under his cap, but I still couldn't see his eyes because of the shadow from his hat. The music stopped. The man got out of the truck again, but this time he did something different. He walked straight to our front door. My whole body went cold. I wanted to scream for my parents, but no sound came out of my throat. The man stood on our front porch for a few seconds, then walked back to the street. But instead of getting in his truck, he walked all the way around our house. I ran from window to window, trying to follow him. I saw him walk past our kitchen window, then our back patio, then along the other side of the house. He was looking in every window. When he got back to the front, he stood in our driveway and stared up at the second floor where my bedroom was. Even though my room was dark, I felt like he could see me. I dropped down to the floor and crawled to my door. I had to tell my parents right now. I opened my bedroom door as quietly as I could and tiptoed down the hall. But when I got to my parents' room, I heard the truck engine start up outside. By the time I woke up my dad and we looked out the window, the street was empty. Dad said we should call the police in the morning if it happened again. He also said he would stay up and watch on Friday night. Friday was the longest day ever. At school, during dinner, doing homework, all I could think about was 10 p.m. Would the truck come back? What did that man want with our house? At 9:30, Dad got his big flashlight and went to sit on our front porch. Mom made me stay in the living room with her, but I could see the street through our big front window. At exactly 10 p.m., we heard the music. But this time, something was different. The truck came down our street, but when it got close to our house and saw Dad sitting there with his flashlight, it didn't stop. It just kept driving. Dad stood up and shined his light on the truck as it passed. In the bright light, I finally saw the driver's face clearly. He looked right at our house as he drove by. His eyes were wide and strange, and he had a weird smile that made my stomach hurt. The truck disappeared around the corner, and we never saw it again. But sometimes, late at night when I'm lying in bed, I still hear that ice cream truck music in my dreams, and it doesn't sound happy anymore. I hate waiting for the school bus. Every morning at 7:15, I have to stand at the corner of Maple Street and Oak Avenue with my backpack, lunchbox, and whatever homework I forgot to finish the night before. The bus doesn't come until 7:30, so I have 15 whole minutes to just stand there and be bored. My bus driver is Mrs. Peterson. She's really nice and always says, "Good morning, sunshine," when I get on. She's been driving the same route for like 20 years, and she knows every kid's name. Bus number 47 is bright yellow with black letters, just like all school buses. But 3 weeks ago, something weird started happening that made me scared to wait for the bus. It was a Monday morning in October. The air was getting cold, and the leaves were turning orange and red. I was standing in my usual spot, checking my phone for the time, when I heard a bus coming down Oak Avenue. I looked up, excited that maybe Mrs. Peterson was early for once. But it wasn't bus number 47. It was a different bus, number 23. I'd never seen that bus in our neighborhood before. The bus slowed down as it got close to me. It was going really slow, like maybe 5 miles per hour. Through the big front window, I could see the driver. He was wearing dark sunglasses, even though it was still pretty early and not very sunny. He had short gray hair and wore a black jacket. The bus stopped right in front of me. I thought maybe he was going to open the door and ask for directions or something. But he didn't. He just sat there, looking at me through those dark sunglasses. I couldn't see his eyes at all, but I could feel him staring. After about 30 seconds, which felt like forever, the bus drove away. No kids got off. No kids got on. It was like the bus was empty except for the creepy driver. 5 minutes later, Mrs. Peterson showed up in bus 47. "Morning, sunshine," she said as I climbed the steps. "Mrs. Peterson," I said, "do you know anything about bus number 23? She thought for a second. "Bus 23? That's on the other side of town, over by Lincoln Elementary. Why do you ask?" I told her about the weird bus that had stopped in front of me. She frowned and said that was strange. "Maybe the driver got lost," she suggested. "Sometimes new drivers take wrong turns." But something about it didn't feel like a wrong turn. Tuesday morning, I was running a little late. I grabbed my backpack and ran to the corner just as I heard a bus coming. I thought I was going to miss Mrs. Peterson, but when I looked up, it was bus number 23 again. This time, the bus was going even slower. It crawled down the street like it was looking for something. When it got to my corner, it stopped again. The door didn't open, but I could see the driver turn his head to look right at me. I started walking backward away from the bus. Something about this was really wrong. The driver just kept staring at me through those dark sunglasses. I couldn't see any kids inside the bus, but the windows were tinted, so it was hard to tell. After a whole minute, the bus drove away. This time it went down Maple Street, instead of continuing on Oak Avenue. I watched it until it turned the corner and disappeared. When Mrs. Peterson arrived, I was still feeling scared. I told her about bus 23 coming back. "That's very strange," she said. "I'm going to call the bus depot and ask about it. Bus 23 shouldn't be anywhere near this area." Wednesday morning, I almost didn't want to go to the bus stop. But Mom made me go to school, so I walked to the corner like always. This time, I brought my phone and kept it ready to call someone if I needed help. At exactly 7:20, I heard the rumble of a bus engine. My heart started beating fast. Sure enough, it was bus number 23 again. But this time was different. The bus didn't just slow down. It pulled over and stopped right next to the curb, like it was picking up passengers. The door opened with a loud hissing sound. The driver looked at me and nodded toward the inside of the bus, like he wanted me to get on. He still wore those dark sunglasses, and now I could see he had a weird smile. Not a friendly smile like Mrs. Peterson's. A smile that made my stomach feel sick. "Come on," the driver said. His voice was deep and scratchy. "Don't you want to ride to school?" I shook my head and backed away from the bus. "I'm waiting for my regular bus," I said. "This bus is better," the driver said. "Faster. You'll get to school early." I looked inside the bus through the open door. All the seats were empty. Completely empty. What kind of school bus has no kids on it? "No, thank you," I said, and I turned around and started walking home. Behind me, I heard the driver say, "See you tomorrow, kid." The bus door closed, and the engine got louder as it drove away. I ran home and told Mom everything. She was really worried and said she was going to drive me to school from now on. She also said she was calling the police. When the police officer came to our house that afternoon, he asked me lots of questions. What did the driver look like? What did the bus look like? Did I notice the license plate? I told him everything I could remember. He wrote it all down in a little notebook and said they would look into it. In the meantime, the officer said, "Don't ever get on a bus that isn't your regular bus. And if you see this bus again, call 911 right away." Thursday morning, Mom drove me to school like she promised. But I kept looking out the car window, wondering if I would see bus number 23. I didn't see it anywhere. Friday morning, Mom had to leave for work early, so she couldn't drive me. She asked our neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, to wait at the bus stop with me until Mrs. Peterson arrived. Mrs. Garcia is really nice, but she's also really small and old. I didn't think she could protect me if something bad happened, but it was better than being alone. We stood at the corner together, talking about school and the weather. At 7:25, we heard a bus coming. "That must be your bus," Mrs. Garcia said. But when I looked down the street, my heart sank. It was bus number 23. "That's not my bus," I whispered to Mrs. Garcia. "That's the weird bus I told you about." Mrs. Garcia squinted at the bus as it got closer. "Are you sure? It looks like a regular school bus to me." The bus slowed down just like before. Through the front window, I could see the same driver with the same dark sunglasses and the same creepy smile. He looked at me, then at Mrs. Garcia. The bus stopped and the door opened. "Morning," the driver said to Mrs. Garcia. "Is this your grandson?" Mrs. Garcia looked confused. "No, this is my neighbor. He's waiting for a school bus." "I am the school bus," the driver said. "New route, new schedule. We're picking up kids earlier now." Mrs. Garcia started walking toward the bus. "Oh, well, that's nice. Come on, sweetheart," she said to me. "No," I said, grabbing her arm. "Mrs. Garcia, that's not my bus driver. My bus driver is a lady named Mrs. Peterson, and my bus is number 47, not 23. Mrs. Garcia stopped and looked at the bus more carefully. She noticed the number 23 painted on the side. "I'm sorry," she said to the driver. "I think there's been some confusion. This child rides bus 47. The driver's smile disappeared. "No confusion," he said. "Get on the bus, kid. You're going to be late for school." His voice wasn't friendly anymore. It sounded angry and mean. Mrs. Garcia stepped in front of me. "We'll wait for his regular bus. Thank you." The driver stared at us for a long time. Then he said, "Fine, but you can't avoid me forever, kid. I know where you live. I know your schedule. I'll be back." The bus door slammed shut, and the bus drove away really fast, making a loud, screeching sound. Mrs. Garcia was shaking. "We need to call the police right now," she said. She called 911 on her cell phone and told them what happened. Then she called my mom at work. By the time Mrs. Peterson arrived with bus 47, there were 2 police cars at our corner. The police took our statements and said they were going to find bus number 23 and figure out who was driving it. Mrs. Peterson was really upset when she heard what happened. "I've been driving buses for 22 years, she said, "and I've never heard of anything like this. No real bus driver would ever try to pick up kids from another route." That weekend, a police detective came to our house with some news. "We found bus number 23, he said. "It was stolen from a depot across town 3 weeks ago. The man driving it is not a real bus driver. He's someone who has a history of bothering children." "Did you catch him?" Mom asked. "Not yet," the detective said, "but we will. And we have extra patrol cars watching your neighborhood now." For the next 2 weeks, Mom drove me to school every day. I was too scared to wait at the bus stop, even with Mrs. Garcia or my parents. But one Tuesday morning, Mrs. Peterson called our house. "I have some good news," she told Mom. "The police caught the man who was driving that fake bus. He's in jail now, and he won't be bothering any more kids." The detective explained that the man had been watching kids at different bus stops around the city, trying to trick them into getting on his stolen bus. I wasn't the only kid he had targeted. Now I ride bus 47 with Mrs. Peterson again, just like before. But I'm always careful to check the number on the side before I get on. And if I ever see a bus driver wearing dark sunglasses and giving me a creepy smile, I know to run home as fast as I can. Sometimes I still have nightmares about that scratchy voice saying, "I know where you live." But Mom says the bad man is locked up where he can't hurt anyone, and that makes me feel a little better. I just hope I never see bus number 23 again. I love dogs. My family doesn't have one because Mom is allergic, but I always get excited when I see people walking their pets in our neighborhood. There's Mrs. Johnson, who walks her golden retriever every morning, and Mr. Kim, who has two little pugs that always try to sniff everything. So when I got sick with the flu and had to stay home from school for a whole week, I thought it would be fun to watch all the dog walkers from my bedroom window. I could see most of our street from there, and it would give me something to do besides sleep and drink chicken soup. It was Monday morning when I first saw him. I was lying in bed, feeling pretty terrible with a fever and a stuffy nose. Mom had brought me some orange juice and told me to rest. I was looking out my window, watching the mailman deliver letters, when I saw a man walking down our street with a dog. The man was tall and thin, wearing a long brown coat and a baseball cap. He was walking really slowly, like he wasn't in any hurry. The dog was small and white, walking beside him on a leash. But something looked weird about the dog. It wasn't sniffing things or looking around like dogs usually do. It just walked in a perfectly straight line, never turning its head or wagging its tail. It moved like a robot. I watched them walk past our house and continue down the street until they turned the corner. I didn't think much about it at first. Maybe the dog was just really well trained. Around lunchtime, I was eating soup in bed when I looked out the window again. The same man was walking past our house again, going in the opposite direction. He still had the same small white dog with him. That was strange. Most people only walk their dogs once or twice a day, not every few hours. And why was he walking so slowly? It took him almost 5 minutes just to walk past our house. Tuesday morning, I was feeling a little better, but still too sick for school. I decided to keep watching out my window to see if the man came back. At exactly 9 a.m., there he was. Same brown coat, same baseball cap, same white dog. They walked past our house at the same super slow pace. The dog still didn't act like a normal dog. It didn't stop to smell anything or try to walk in the grass. It just moved forward like it was being controlled. I started timing them. It took exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds for them to walk from one end of my view to the other. At 11 a.m., they came back. Same direction as the day before. Same slow speed. Same weird dog behavior. At 1 p.m., they walked by again. At 3 p.m., again. At 5 p.m., again. By dinner time, I had seen the man and his dog walk past our house 5 times in one day. That was definitely not normal. When Mom brought me dinner, I told her about the strange dog walker. Maybe he's a professional dog walker, she suggested. Some people pay others to walk their dogs when they're at work. But it's the same dog every time, I said, and they walk by our house every 2 hours. Who needs their dog walked that much? Mom looked out my window, but the street was empty. Well, as long as he's not bothering anyone, I guess it's okay. Some people just like to walk a lot. But I had a feeling it wasn't about walking. Wednesday morning, I was ready with a notebook to write down everything I saw. I wanted to keep track of exactly when the man walked by and what he was doing. 9 a.m., man and dog walked by going east. Man looked at our house for about 10 seconds. Dog didn't move its head at all. 11 a.m., man and dog walked by going west. This time a man stopped in front of our house and pretended to let the dog sniff our mailbox. But the dog didn't actually sniff anything. It just stood there. 1 p.m., man and dog walked by going east again. Man looked at all the windows of our house, like he was trying to see inside. 3 p.m., man and dog walked by going west. Man walked even slower in front of our house. The dog never moved its tail or ears. 5 p.m., man and dog walked by going east. This time I noticed something that made my stomach feel weird. The dog's legs were moving, but its body wasn't bouncing up and down like a real dog when it walks. It moved too smoothly, too perfectly. I stared at the dog really hard, trying to figure out what was wrong with it. That's when I realized something horrible. The dog wasn't breathing. I watched for 2 whole minutes, and its chest never moved up and down. Its mouth was closed the entire time, and I never saw its tongue. Real dogs pant when they walk, especially when they're walking for hours. But this dog's mouth stayed shut like it was glued closed. When Mom came to check on me that evening, I told her what I had noticed. "Honey, you have a fever," she said, feeling my forehead. "Sometimes when we're sick, we imagine things that aren't really there." "I'm not imagining it," I said. "There's something wrong with that dog. I think it might be fake." Mom sat on my bed and looked at me with concern. "A fake dog? Like a stuffed animal?" "I don't know," I said, "but it doesn't act like any real dog I've ever seen." "Well, try to get some sleep," Mom said. "Maybe you'll feel better tomorrow, and things will seem more normal." But Thursday was when things got really scary. I woke up early and positioned myself by the window before 9 a.m. I had my notebook ready and even borrowed Mom's binoculars from the closet. At exactly 9 a.m., the man appeared. But this time, I could see him much more clearly through the binoculars. The man's face was pale and thin. He had dark circles under his eyes, like he hadn't slept in days. His clothes looked dirty and wrinkled. But the worst part was his expression. He wasn't looking around like someone enjoying a walk with their pet. He was staring intensely at the houses, like he was studying them. When we got to our house, he stopped completely. He stood on the sidewalk and looked up at my bedroom window. Even though I was sitting back from the window, I felt like he could see me. Through the binoculars, I got my best look yet at the dog. What I saw made me drop the binoculars and gasp. The dog's eyes were glassy and didn't blink. Its fur looked matted and dull, and its legs moved in a weird, jerky way that wasn't natural. But the most horrible thing was that I could see wire. Thin metal wire was sticking out from under the dog's fur near its legs, like someone had built a machine inside a real dog's body. I ran to get Mom, but by the time we both got back to the window, the man and the fake dog were gone. "Mom, you have to believe me," I said. "That dog is not alive. There's something really wrong with it, and something really wrong with the man walking it." Mom looked worried, but not about the dog walker. She was worried about me. "Sweetie, I think your fever might be making you see things. Let me take your temperature." My temperature was normal for the first time in days. I wasn't imagining anything. Friday morning, I had a plan. I was going to take pictures of the man and his fake dog with Mom's camera. Then I could prove I wasn't making it up. At 9 a.m., I was ready. The man appeared right on schedule, walking his horrible fake dog. I raised the camera and started taking pictures through the window. But when a man got in front of our house, something different happened. He looked up at my window and saw me with the camera. For the first time since I've been watching him, his expression changed. He smiled. It was the most terrifying smile I had ever seen. His teeth were yellow and crooked, and his eyes looked crazy. Then he did something that made me scream. He picked up the fake dog and held it up toward my window, like he was showing it to me. The dog's head flopped to one side like it was broken. I could see the wires sticking out more clearly now. The dog's mouth fell open, and its tongue hung out, but it was gray and gross, not pink like a real dog's tongue. The man mouthed some words at me. I couldn't hear him through the window, but I could read his lips. He said, "Do you like my pet?" I screamed for Mom and ran away from the window. When Mom came running upstairs, I was crying and shaking. "He knows I've been watching him," I sobbed. "And that dog is dead, Mom. It's a dead dog, and he's making it walk with wires or something." Mom looked out the window, but the street was empty again. This time, she didn't tell me I was imagining things. She called the police. 2 police officers came to our house that afternoon. I told them everything I had seen and showed them the pictures I had taken. In the photos, you could clearly see the man holding up the lifeless dog. One of the officers looked at the pictures and frowned. "Ma'am, this is very disturbing. We've actually had reports about a man with a dead animal in other neighborhoods. We think he might be mentally ill. Is it dangerous?" Mom asked. "Potentially," the officer said. "We need to find this person and get him some help. The fact that he's been walking past your house multiple times a day is also concerning. That's stalking behavior. The police set up a watch on our street. They had unmarked cars parked where they could see our house. Saturday morning at 9 a.m., the man showed up again. But this time, when he saw the police cars, he started running. He dropped the fake dog on the sidewalk and ran as fast as he could down the street. The police caught him 3 blocks away. Later, the officers came back to tell us what they had found. The man had been carrying around his dead pet dog for over a month, using wires and a remote control to make it look like it was walking. He had been doing this in different neighborhoods around the city. He's very sick, the officer explained. He couldn't accept that his dog had died, so he tried to make it seem alive. He's going to get the help he needs now. The fake dog was taken away by animal control. The officers said they would make sure it was buried properly. I went back to school the following Monday, completely healthy again. But for weeks afterward, whenever I saw someone walking a real dog in our neighborhood, I watched carefully to make sure the dog was actually alive. I never want to see anything like that fake dog again. Now I know that sometimes the scariest things aren't monsters or ghosts. Sometimes they're just people who are very sick and very sad, doing things that don't make sense to anyone else. But I'm really glad the police caught him before he scared any other kids. Our neighborhood is pretty quiet most of the time. The only vehicles you usually see are people driving to work, school buses, and the mail truck. Sometimes we get delivery trucks or repair vans when someone needs their cable fixed or their air conditioner repaired. So when I started noticing the same white repair van parked on different streets almost every day, I didn't think much about it at first. Repair vans are normal, right? The van was big and white with some kind of company logo on the side, but I could never read it clearly from far away. It looked like most repair vans, nothing special or scary about it. The first time I really paid attention to it was on a Saturday morning in November. I was walking to my friend Jake's house, which is 3 streets over from mine. As I turned onto Oak Street, I saw the white van parked across from the Miller family's house. There was a man sitting in the driver's seat. He had dark hair and was wearing a blue work shirt, like a real repairman would wear. He was looking at the Miller's house and writing something on a clipboard. I figured he was probably going to fix their dishwasher or something. Mrs. Miller had been complaining about it, making weird noises. But when I walked past Jake's house 2 hours later on my way home, the van was still there. The man was still sitting in the driver's seat, still looking at the house, still writing on his clipboard. That seemed like a long time for a repair job estimate. The next day, Sunday, I was riding my bike around the neighborhood when I saw the same white van again. But this time it was parked on Elm Street in front of the Johnson's house. The same man was inside, doing the same thing, staring at the house and writing notes. I rode closer to get a better look. The van had AAA Home Repairs written on the side in blue letters. There was a phone number too, but some of the numbers were faded and hard to read. The man saw me riding by and looked right at me. He didn't wave or smile like most adults do when they see kids. He just stared at me with a serious expression until I rode away. Monday after school, I was walking home from the bus stop when I saw the van again. This time it was on my street, Pine Avenue, parked about 5 houses down from mine. The man was outside the van now, standing on the sidewalk with his clipboard. He wasn't knocking on anyone's door or working on anything. He was just standing there, looking at the houses and writing things down. When he saw me coming down the street, he quickly got back in his van. I walked past the van slowly, trying to see what he was writing on his clipboard. Through the passenger window, I could see papers covered with notes and what looked like little drawings. But before I could see more, the man covered the clipboard with his arm and glared at me. That night at dinner, I told my parents about the repair van I kept seeing. Maybe he's doing estimates for several different families, Dad suggested. Sometimes repair companies visit multiple houses in the same neighborhood. But why would he just sit in his van for hours? I asked, and why doesn't he ever actually go to the doors? Mom frowned. What do you mean he doesn't go to the doors? I've seen him 3 times now, and he never gets out to ring doorbells or anything. He just sits there and stares at the houses. My parents looked at each other across the table. That is a little strange, Mom said. Real repairmen usually talk to the homeowners before they start working. Maybe he's just being really thorough, Dad said, but he didn't sound convinced. Tuesday after school, I decided to pay more attention to the repair van. If I saw it again, I was going to watch exactly what the man was doing. I didn't have to wait long. As I walked home from the bus stop, I saw the white van parked on Maple Street. This time I hid behind a big oak tree where I could watch without being seen. The man was outside his van again, but he wasn't looking at any houses. He was looking at the windows of the houses, like he was trying to see inside them. He had a small pair of binoculars hanging around his neck. As I watched, he picked up the binoculars and looked through them at the Stevens house. He stared for a long time, then wrote something on his clipboard. Then he looked at the next house and did the same thing. He was spying on people. I watched him do this for about 10 minutes. He looked through the binoculars at every house on the street, writing notes about each one. When he got to a house where he could see people inside through the windows, he wrote extra notes. This definitely wasn't a real repairman. I snuck away from my hiding spot and ran home. I told my parents what I had seen, and this time they believed me right away. That's not normal behavior for any kind of repair worker, Dad said. We need to call the police. Mom was already reaching for the phone, and we need to warn the neighbors too. The police officer who came to our house asked me lots of questions about the van and the man. I described everything I had seen, what the man looked like, what he was wearing, where I had seen the van parked, and how he used binoculars to look into people's houses. We've actually had a few reports about suspicious activity in this area, the officer said. This van might be connected to some recent break-ins in nearby neighborhoods. Break-ins? Mom asked, looking worried. Someone has been burglarizing homes when the families are away, the officer explained. The burglar seems to know exactly when people leave for work and when kids get home from school. Like he's been watching the houses and learning people's schedules. My stomach felt sick. That's exactly what the man in the van was doing. He was watching families and writing down when they came and went. We're going to increase patrols in this neighborhood, the officer said. And if you see this van again, call us immediately. Don't approach it or we'll try to get a closer look. Wednesday morning, I was extra careful walking to the bus stop. I kept looking around for the white repair van, but I didn't see it anywhere. At school, I told my friend Jake about the fake repairman. Jake said his mom had mentioned seeing a suspicious van in their neighborhood too. She said there was a man taking pictures of houses, Jake said, but when she tried to ask him what he was doing, he drove away really fast. That afternoon, as I was walking home from the bus stop, I saw something that made my heart race. The white repair van was parked right in front of my house. The man was standing on our front lawn with his clipboard and binoculars. He was looking at all our windows and writing things down. When he saw me coming down the street, he didn't run away like before. Instead, he smiled and waved at me like we were friends. I was too scared to walk past him to get to my front door. Instead, I ran to Mrs. Garcia's house next door and rang her doorbell. "What's wrong, honey?" Mrs. Garcia asked when she saw how scared I looked. I pointed at the man in our yard. That man has been watching houses in our neighborhood for days. My parents called the police about him. Mrs. Garcia looked at the man and frowned. "He's not supposed to be on your property without permission." She went to her phone and called 911. While we waited for the police, we watched the man through Mrs. Garcia's window. He walked all around our house, looking in every window he could reach. He even tried to peek into our garage windows. When he heard the police sirens coming down our street, the man finally looked worried. He ran back to his van and tried to drive away, but the police cars blocked both ends of the street. I watched from Mrs. Garcia's window as the police officers arrested the man. They searched his van and found all kinds of things that proved he was planning to rob houses. One of the officers came to Mrs. Garcia's house to talk to me. "You did exactly the right thing by calling for help instead of trying to go home," she said. "This man is very dangerous. Was he really planning to break into our house?" I asked. "He was planning to break into lots of houses," the officer said. "We found detailed notes about dozens of families in the area. He wrote down when people left for work, when kids came home from school, and when houses were empty." She showed me a notebook they had taken from the van. It was full of drawings of houses and schedules for different families. There was even a page about my family that said what time I walked to the bus stop and what time my parents left for work. "He's been watching your neighborhood for weeks," the officer explained. "He was getting ready to start breaking into houses when people weren't home." The officer also told me that the van wasn't really a repair van. The man had put fake company stickers on it to make it look official. That's why no one thought it was suspicious at first. "Thanks to you noticing his suspicious behavior and reporting it, we caught him before he could hurt anyone or steal from any families," the officer said. Over the next few days, the police found out that the fake repairman had been doing the same thing in neighborhoods all over the city. He would spend weeks watching houses and learning people's routines, then break in when he knew the families would be away. Some of the neighbors came by to thank me for being observant and calling the police. Mrs. Miller said she had seen the van outside her house, but just assumed it was a real repair worker. "I never would have thought to be suspicious," she said. "You probably saved all of us from being robbed." My parents were proud of me for paying attention and speaking up when something didn't seem right. Dad said it was a good reminder that not everyone who looks official is actually supposed to be there. If someone is hanging around the neighborhood for no good reason, there's usually a bad reason, he said. Now, when I see repair vans or delivery trucks in our neighborhood, I always check to make sure they're actually working on something or delivering packages. And if I see the same vehicle in multiple places without any obvious purpose, I know to tell my parents right away. I learned that trusting your instincts when something feels wrong is really important. Even if adults think you're being silly, it's better to be safe than sorry. And I'm really glad that fake repairman is in jail where he can't scare any more kids or steal from any more families.